Hello friends, and welcome back to Pension and Benefits Guide, the channel where we cut through the confusion and give you the facts you actually need about your money, your pension, and your home. If you own your home here in the UK and you were born in the 1940s, the 1950s, or the 1960s, listen carefully, because right now, the rules that apply to your property are not the same rules that applied even a year ago. They depend on your age, on when you bought your home, on what you're planning to do next, and on changes that have already come into force this year that most homeowners still haven't heard about. So today, I'm going to walk you through each decade separately. What's happening right now that specifically affects you? What's changed in 2026 that you may not know about? And what you need to do before the window closes. Before we dive in, quick mention, if you're retired or getting close to it, and you've ever felt like the state pension and DWP system was almost designed to confuse people, I've put together something called the British Pensioners' Money Playbook. Every rule, every form, every phone number you might need, all checked against the 2026-27 government figures and written in plain English. People who've gone through it have found state pension money they were owed for years, stopped paying bills they never should have been paying, and finally made sense of letters from HMRC and the DWP that had been sitting on the kitchen table for months. If that sounds familiar, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Right, let's get into it. I'll start with the oldest group here, because this is where the most urgent development of 2026 is concentrated, and where your planning window is shortest. If you were born in the 1940s, you are now somewhere between 77 and 85 years old. Chances are you've owned your home for decades, and in a lot of cases, that property has grown enormously in value. A house that cost £15,000 back in 1975 might now be worth £400,000, £500,000, or a lot more, depending on where you live. And that growth is exactly where the problem starts. The nil rate band, the amount that can pass to your beneficiaries free of inheritance tax, is £325,000 per person. That figure hasn't moved since April 2009, and it won't move until at least April 2031. On top of that, there's the residence nil rate band of £175,000, which applies when you leave your main home directly to your children or grandchildren. For a single person, that brings your allowance up to £500,000. For a married couple, where both allowances can be transferred, the combined threshold is £1 million. Sounds generous, right? But here's the catch. For someone born in the 1940s living in much of England, a 3-bedroom family home in the southeast, outer London, or plenty of other parts of the country may already be worth more than £500,000 on its own, and that's before you add savings, pension income, and other assets. Every year, the property grows in value while the nil rate band stays frozen. So more and more of the estate creeps into that 40% inheritance tax zone. And here's where the real impact becomes clear. From the 6th of April, 2027, the calculation changes again. Unspent defined contribution pension pots will be included in the inheritance tax estate for the very first time. Right now, pension savings pass to your beneficiaries completely outside the estate, free of inheritance tax. From April 2027, that changes. Those savings will count as part of the estate and could attract that 40% charge above the available thresholds. For someone in their late 70s or early 80s with a house, some savings, and an undrawn pension pot, the combined estate could easily be larger than the allowances cover. And the window to get advice and restructure before the new rules kick in is just 9 months. One more thing specific to this group. Private residence relief, the exemption that means no capital gains tax on your main home when you sell, has a final period exemption of only 9 months after you move out. So if you're moving into care, that 9-month clock starts from the date you move, not the date the house eventually sells. Please, take advice before that runs out. Now let's move to the group in the middle, because this is the group being caught off guard by a charge that simply didn't exist when they bought their homes. If you were born in the 1950s, you are now between 66 and 76 years old. You likely bought your home during a period when UK property was dramatically cheaper relative to earnings, and you've watched that value grow substantially since. The big new development affecting this group is the high-value council tax surcharge, widely known as the mansion tax. It was announced in the November 2025 budget and confirmed by Prime Minister Andy Burnham in July 2026. Here's how it works. The mansion tax applies to residential properties in England valued above £2 million. The annual charge ranges from £2,500 to £7,500, depending on the property's value band, and it's collected alongside your standard council tax bill starting from April 2028. The Valuation Office Agency is currently carrying out 2026 property valuations to work out which properties fall within scope. And here's why this matters specifically if you were born in the 1950s. A semi-detached house in parts of Surrey, Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, or Outer London that cost £80,000 to £120,000 back in the mid-1980s might now be valued well above £1.5 million. The Homeowners Alliance has reported active discussion at government level about whether that £2 million threshold should actually be lowered to £1.5 million. Nothing's confirmed yet, but the direction of travel seems to be more properties coming into scope, not fewer. And remember, it's the 2026 valuation that matters here, not what you originally paid for the house. There's also something worth flagging if you're thinking about equity release, a real trap to watch for. If you take equity release as a lump sum, the DWP treats that as capital. Go above £16,000, and your pension credit can be cancelled entirely, which means losing your council tax reduction, the warm home discount, the winter fuel payment, and your free TV license at 75. Together, that could be worth £2,000 to £3,000 a year. So if you're considering equity release, ask your provider specifically about a drawdown facility rather than a lump sum. Smaller amounts drawn over time can help you stay below those capital thresholds. Quick pause here. If this is useful so far, hit like, drop a comment letting me know which decade applies to you, and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps this information reach more people who need it. Now for the youngest group in today's video, people born in the 1960s, who are at or approaching retirement age and making property decisions that carry tax consequences about to shift. If you were born in the 1960s, you're now between 60 and 65 years old, at or approaching state pension age depending on your exact birth month. In 2026, several property rules intersect in ways that create both risks and opportunities specifically for this group. First up, capital gains tax. CGT on residential property currently sits at 18% for basic rate taxpayers and 24% for higher rate taxpayers, following the October 2024 budget. But the signals coming from the new Burnham government point towards CGT rates rising, potentially being aligned with income tax rates. That would mean 20% for basic rate and 40% for higher rate taxpayers. Nothing is confirmed. But if you own a second property, a buy-to-let, or anything that isn't your main residence, and you're thinking about selling in the next 1 to 3 years, it's worth having a conversation with a tax advisor about timing before any potential increase is announced. For your main home specifically, private residence relief usually means no capital gains tax when you sell. But partial taxation can apply if you've rented out part of the property, used part of it exclusively for business, or had a period where you weren't living there as your main residence. If your property history is a bit complicated, confirm your position with HMRC or a tax advisor before you sell. The second issue for this age group is downsizing. Stamp duty land tax applies to purchases above £125,000, and a 5% rate applies to the portion of a purchase price above £250,000. So on a £350,000 purchase, that's £5,000 in stamp duty alone. Make sure that's factored into your downsizing calculations before you commit to a price. And one thing that actually affects all three groups equally, the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act 2024. It gives leaseholders stronger rights to extend leases, purchase freeholds, and challenge unreasonable service charges. If your lease has fewer than 80 years remaining, extending it now is significantly cheaper under the new valuation rules. Quick reminder before we wrap up, the British Pensioners Money Playbook covers the inheritance tax thresholds, the council tax rules, the benefit interactions with equity release, and the property exemptions I've talked about today, all in one place, checked against the 2026-27 figures. Links in the description and the pinned comment. So, let's bring it all together. If you were born in the 1940s, your priority is reviewing your estate plan before April 2027, when unspent pension pots enter the inheritance tax estate for the first time. The nil rate band is frozen at £325,000, and the combined couple threshold is £1 million. And if you're moving out of your home with a view to selling, that 9-month private residence relief clock may already be running. Get advice before it expires. If you were born in the 1950s, the mansion tax from April 2028 applies to properties valued above £2 million under the 2026 valuations, with active discussion about lowering that threshold to £1.5 million. And if you receive pension credit and are considering equity release, choose a drawdown facility over a lump sum to protect your benefits. If you were born in the 1960s, capital gains tax on residential property currently sits at 18 to 24%, but the signals point toward increases under the Burnham government. If you own a non-main residence property and were planning to sell, get advice on timing now. Factor stamp duty into any downsizing plans. And if you're in a leasehold property with a short lease remaining, the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act 2024 gives you new rights to extend it on better terms. So tell me in the comments, which decade are you in, and did any of this catch you off guard? I read every comment, so let me know. If this helped clear things up, do me a favor and hit subscribe, share it with anyone you know who was born before 1970, and I'll see you in the next one.